What's up, guys? Josh Mosman here. Welcome to This Week in MXA, presented by O'Neill Racing. Thank you guys for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to talk about the Oakland Supercross and the chaos that went down in the 450 LCQ. Also going to hear from my good buddy Shane McElrath about his transition into the 450 class after the first two rounds. Talk about Stank Dog, Jared Stanky making the main event in the 250 class on a 125 two-stroke. Share a little bit of clips also from me and some of my buddies riding 125s in the hills the other day. Talk about our 250 shootout video that was just released and more. So let's get into it. Starting off, we have to talk about the chaotic 450 LCQ at the Oakland Supercross. And thanks to Feld Entertainment, they gave us some footage to feature in this episode of Ryan Brees, Adam Inticknap, Bryson Gardner, Joanne Cross, and the guys going all at it, trying to qualify for the 450 main event in Supercross. So if you guys don't know, the pay structure for the 450 class is quite a bit better. If you make the main event, I believe it's around $2,000 that you make. So it's a good pay raise to make the main event in the 450 class. It's also something that is a huge accomplishment to put on your resume and to tell your kids when you get older that, hey, I made a 450 Supercross main event. So these guys are trying their very, very hardest to make it every single Saturday. And Ryan Brees, he made the main event at Anaheim 1. And that was actually his first main event in over a year because he took the entire 2021 season off with an injury. So we didn't see Ryan Brees in 2021. He did well in 2020, but was gone last year. Came back for 2022. Anaheim 1, made the 450 main event, and that wasn't without controversy. He had some gnarly battles in the last two turns, but he squeaked it out and he made the main event at Anaheim 1. Super cool to see for Ryan. Coming to Oakland, he's battling in the LCQ again. As stated on his Instagram post, he actually got hit earlier in the race, which you didn't see on TV, and unless you were there watching him in person, you wouldn't have saw. Ryan Brees got hit earlier in the 450 LCQ that he said broke his rear rotor, and he said it also broke his rear brake caliper. So he didn't have a rear brake to finish out the 450 LCQ. And in this video, we see him and Adam Inticknap coming out of the whoop section, battling for the final transfer position in the 450 LCQ. Ryan Brees goes for that rear brake, but you can see in the video, the rear end does not slow down at all. He banks off of Adam Inticknap in a full commitment mode. There was no options for him that he wasn't able to stop, and he made the pass. Adam Inticknap went down hard. As you can see, Adam was frustrated and probably a little bit confused that a pass would happen in kind of a high-speed sweeper corner like that, but Ryan Brees got by him. He made it into a transfer position. Later in the race, he's actually coming around and lapping Adam Inticknap, and it's almost wondering, like, did Adam try to get in his head or try to mess with him at all? But no, you look at the video footage, Adam stayed out of his way. Ryan came out of the corner, cased the triple, crashed, went down hard, got up and continued fighting, never gave up until the last corner when he went down again, had a huge wreck. He's okay and looking forward to San Diego, but we have a little more context now as to why he was riding so erratically, and that's because didn't have a rear brake. It's a lot harder to stop a 450 Yamaha, especially coming into these steep berms in Supercross when you don't have a rear brake to help you slow down. So gnarly stuff, but good job to those guys. They put on an awesome show and made it really exciting to watch Supercross. So now part 2 of the 450 LCQ madness is Joanne Cross, Bryson Gardner going at it in the final corner for the final transfer position. I got to talk to Bryson after the race. He explained it in detail, what happened and what was going through his mind and why he was actually caught on the last lap and what really made for such an intense final corner in the 450 LCQ.
Actually, I did hear the crowd like get loud, and I didn't really know what happened. But then when I came around on my pit board, it said P5, so I was like, oh, someone went down. And then I come around and Brees is down in that rhythm. So in my head, I'm like, oh, that's P4. So then I'm starting to get nervous. But he was like on the right of the rhythm, and he kind of got up and shot to the middle, and I was in the middle of the rhythm coming into it. So I like braked, checked up, went around him, and then like nose frame cased the two after him. So then my heart rate spikes. So then I'm like, oh God, here we go. And then I kind of ride that the rest of that lap was good. And then I get P4 on my pit board on the last lap. And then, yeah, I mean, just that last lap, I was tight. I was nervous. I was like, oh my God. Cased the little second long rhythm, like went 3-3 frame, 2-2 out or whatever it was. Almost crashed on the ski jump. I slid off of it, caught. And then I kind of cleaned it up, and I'm like kind of mellow, and I know he's close to me. So we go into the corner before the whoops, before the finish line, and I like went tight, and I tried to go tight and then like kind of cut to the middle, and I tucked the front end leaving the corner. So I tucked the front end, kind of fixed myself, like just at this point I'm like brain off, put up the throttle, like go like 4.5 into the whoops, kind of do whatever. And I know Brees was like close to him, and I know he was close to me, so I don't really know if when he was, I don't know, I was just like focused on him. He kind of went like he jumped out of the whoops, which let me cut under him. I'm not like a super aggressive guy by any means, and I've never really punted somebody. So I kind of like blurped and I hit him in the corner, and we kind of hit, and then I ride him, or I take him along the tough blocks all the way up the face. And he's like kind of has this little wheel on me, and I'm like quarter throttling up the face because I thought he was gonna hit the tough blocks and catch him and shoot across my front end on the finish line. So I'm like kind of quarter throttling, and then we hit the finish line. I was like, no way, dude. I was like, oh, it was all my fault. That whole last lap was just squirrely.
All right, so there you have it. Bryson Gardner is a great friend of mine. I've known this kid for a long, long time. I call him a kid. He's a couple years younger than me. Known him since he was young. Bryson's riding really well in the 450 class, and fun to catch up with him. You want to see the full interview, you can check out motocrossactionmag.com. We got more about him on there. And overall, that was an intense, crazy situation. In a normal situation, I think Bryson would have had the pass made on Joanne by diving underneath him, but that Joanne cross, man, he stayed in it, was 110% committed, and he got the final transfer position into the 450 Supercross main event. Crazy stuff, but made for some great racing and a great race to watch. Really great time for fans to be watching Supercross when there's battles like that in the last corner. All right, guys, next up, I talked to my good buddy Shane McElrath after the first 2 rounds of racing to get his opinion on what it's like racing the 450 class. If you guys know Shane's story, he spent a lot of time with the Twirly Designs KTM team. Then he moved over to Star Racing Yamaha, finished second in Supercross at Chase Sexton, almost won the championship in 2020, finished third in the Nationals in 2020, moves to Moto Concepts Honda to make his 450 debut, but injuries plagued him all of 2021. He only really raced 2 Supercross races, got injured, was off the bike for a long, long time. Shane McElrath came back to riding, signed with Rocky Mountain KTM for 2022. Now he's getting whole shots. He's running up front at the beginning of the race, but is having a tough time staying at the front of the pack. And to be honest, from the outside looking in, and even as his buddy, I think it's a challenge to be away from racing for so long and then to jump into it at Anaheim 1, be right at the front of the pack with those guys that have been racing the 450 class for a while now. So it was fun catching up with Shane. Let's hear from him now.
Dude, it just the depth of the field. I mean, I've raced most of the guys before. A lot of the guys in the 250 class. Some of them, my rookie year was their last year in the 250 class, and some of them I actually didn't get to race. So, like their experience and their racecraft. The crazy thing is, like, it sounds weird, but it's not all about speed. Like in the beginning, it's like you have to be so smart. It's like playing chess, and I've never really played chess, so that's what is hard. Is everybody is different in that class, but everybody has their own racecraft, has their own choices that they make out there, and the choices in the 450 class don't seem to be the same choices that were in the 250 class. So that's where I'm like, okay, how do I race in front of and behind me at the same time? Because it's like there is literally no break. Like I get held up in a corner when somebody runs me high, and I lose just enough time for somebody else to be right on me. And I'm like, dude, I don't know whether to guard the inside in the next corner. There's a lot going on, and it's I'm trying to learn and handle it the best I can in the moment. Honestly, it's almost kind of the saying, like, give them an inch and they take a mile. Like if there's a sliver of an opportunity for anybody out there, they're on that opportunity. And it's like, it almost doesn't matter if it screws up the whole next rhythm. If there's an opportunity for somebody to pass me, it seems like they take it with no regard of the next section or what that's going to entail. And so that's where I'm like, coming from the 250s, it's like at times you're worried about doing the rhythms. Whereas like in the 450 class, it's almost like, so in my head, like just after the last 2 races, it's like there's zero care about what the next section is. Yeah. If somebody's just going to come in and shut the whole rhythm down just to get by you. And that's where I'm like, it almost doesn't really make sense, because I'm like, dude, I'm trying to race, but it's almost like just a cat and mouse game, especially early on when everybody's together. And that's, yeah, it's a lot to learn and to try to figure out. And it's, some people are just, yeah, it's, I'm not really sure what's going on the first couple laps, because it's just chaos, honestly.
All right, guys. So that was just a short blurb from my interview with Shane McElrath. We have a full MXA podcast on any podcast platform, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can listen to the full interview there. It's about 25 minutes, I believe. We also have a written interview that's going to be on the website as well, with a link to the podcast. So if you want to see the full in-depth Shane McElrath interview, motocrossactionmag.com or your local podcast platform. Next up, we'll highlight the 450 class real briefly. Justin Barcia has the red plate and the points lead after round 2 now. Pretty incredible that Bam Bam has been the most consistent rider after 2 races. He's got a 3-point lead on Jason Anderson and Cooper Webb, who are both tied for second. Ken Roxon had the points lead. He dropped back. He's now 6 points back in the championship standings, but he's still right in there. Eli Tomac is also 6 points back, tied with Ken Roxon. So points are close after 2 rounds. It's been fun seeing new people on the podium. Justin Barcia, Jason Anderson, and Aaron Plessinger are a lot of fun to see on the podium together, and I'm hoping we see more new guys get on the podium this week. And Eli Tomac could get a podium, Marvin Muscan could get a podium, Malcolm Stewart could get a podium. How cool would it be if we had all new guys on the podium again this weekend in San Diego? I'm personally looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun time. Covering the 250 class after 2 rounds, Christian Craig has been untouchable so far, winning both of his heat races and both 250 main events so far. He's been looking great, and he's got an 8-point lead on Hunter Lawrence and Seth Hammaker. My brother has been going fast. If you're watching the races, you see he's going fast, but been throwing it away when it comes to the main event time. It's going to be interesting to see if he can step it up this weekend in San Diego. So looking forward to San Diego Supercross. There was lots of crashes at Oakland as well in the whoop section. Joe Shimoda came away with a massive crash, and luckily he was relatively unscathed. He did a perfect front flip, and it seemed like the bike just laid him on the ground gracefully, and came away with probably really little bumps and bruises. So good to see Joe Shimoda came away from that wreck safely. Good to see my brother. He had a tip over, but came away safely, and looking forward to see what these guys can do at San Diego. Is Christian Craig going to make it 3 in a row, or is somebody going to be able to stop him? Only time will tell. Next up, we got to touch on Jared Stanky making the 250 main event at the second round of the season on a 125 two-stroke. Very incredible, pretty crazy stuff. We here at MXA, we ride all of the 125 two-strokes and have a lot of fun on them. You guys know, if you watch our test videos on the KTM, Gas, and Husqvarna 125 two-strokes, you know that the airbox actually makes a difference, and the airbox on the Husqvarna is actually a little more closed off and doesn't have as good of a shape as the KTM. So personally, in my opinion, I think that Jared Stanky would actually be better on a KTM 125 because that airbox flows a little more air. But who knows what he's got done to that airbox? He's probably got a lot of holes poked in and around there to get more airflow into that engine. Either way, impressive to see what Jared Stanky is doing on a 125 two-stroke in Supercross. It's going to be interesting to see if he can back it up. Let's see if he can get another main event on that 125 this weekend. I know everybody loves two-strokes, and a lot of people are rooting for Jared Stanky to keep the train going. And speaking of 125 two-strokes, I've had a lot of fun riding with my buddies on MXA's 125 two-strokes. There's something special about taking a bone stock bike, bone stock two-strokes, 125s to be specific, taking them with your buddies, riding some either backyard tracks or public tracks. Either way, stock two-strokes, 125 versus 125, it's a lot of fun. Check out some clips that I got from my buddy Cameron Przinski's house the other day.
First ever time on a
175. What do you think?
Dude, I'm about to sell my bike and get me one of these.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You got a what? KTM 450?
I got a KTM 450, but my skill level, I should be right here. This is home, man. Oh yeah.
What's better about the 175?
I can lay it down a little bit better in the corners, and I don't mean by falling. It's just so light and nimble. Like I can keep the bike more controlled, but also put it where I need it. I'm talking like I'm a pro, but really I'm just the average Joe. So average Joes, you don't need a 450. You need bike skill and tameable power.
In this next segment, we're gonna talk about our 2022 250 4-stroke shootout video. So this video was just released a couple days ago. It's on our YouTube and website. You can check it out there. Shootouts are a love-hate relationship for the motocross action wrecking crew. It's fun to get all the bikes together. It's fun to ride them all, but the riding's the easy part. The challenge is to make them all look good, to organize the track to ourselves, to fix the bikes, fix the parts that are broken, to take them to the dyno, to take them to the scales, to weigh them. So it's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and also just gathering opinions from all of our test riders to write the article for the magazine and condense that information into a video form as well. So the pro test riders that you see in the 250 shootout video, most of those are pro test riders and pro friends of mine who race supercross, motocross, and some of them race like the work series in the pro class as well. We choose those guys to help us make the bikes look good. We'll take their opinions, but they are really there to help us make the bike and the videos and photos look good. But it's really our vet test riders who are racing these bikes every weekend, who are tall and skinny, short and fat, old, young, middle-aged, all those guys who really help us come up with our shootout results, as well as me, Jody, Daryl, Dennis, Trevor, all the guys who are riding these bikes all the time, compiling our information on them. So a lot of fun. Josh Fout, Brian Medeiros, 2 other test riders who help us a lot. 250 Shootout is live. Check it out. All right, guys, before we wrap up this video, want to highlight our February issue of Motocross Action magazine. This magazine is jam-packed. We got our 450 shootout in here. A lot of fun doing that. I got an interview with Dave Prater of Supercross, Feld Entertainment. He's the high-up guy in charge of making lots of decisions at Feld Entertainment. I asked him a lot of hard-hitting questions. Really cool interview. You could see in the magazine there. Also got some coverage from the World Vet Championship with some carnage that happened at that race as well. So lots of cool stuff in this issue of the magazine. Also, my 10 Things article talks about bore and stroke. I got to sit down with Mitch Payton for a couple hours at Pro Circuit, and he taught me a lot about engine history, 250Fs, and just kind of the philosophy that goes into building a 250 4-stroke. So another news, KX112, we just picked this bike up from Kawasaki. It's brand new for 2022. They wanted us to get some coverage on it. So we have some smaller test riders, Brian Medeiros in particular. He's going to jump on this thing soon. We'll get some other small guys on it. And I'm 6 foot, 170 on a good day, 175 average day. I'm going to jump on it too and have some fun with it. And Travis Fant, our videographer, he challenged me to a race, me on a Super Mini, him on a KTM 450. We talked about it months ago. We didn't have a Super Mini for a while. Now we got a Super Mini in our stables again. So hopefully we'll do this race sooner than later. If you think I can win, or if you think Travis is going to win, let us know in the comments. Maybe comment on his Instagram, tfant612. Nudge him a little bit if you want. So good times. Looking forward to that. We'll see you guys at San Diego Supercross this weekend. If you see me, Trevor, or Travis walking around the Supercross pits, be sure to slap us on the back, say hi. We'll see you at the races.